So again, welcome everybody to this seminar about using these interactive PDF tune books for practicing tunes. This is again one of two seminars that I'm going to be giving on the tool. The first week, this week, is going to be about students. It's going to be about how to use some of the tune books that are available that I've already created and that other people have created for learning tunes and practicing tunes. This is not a technical seminar. The first half of it in particular will be very non-technical. Towards the end, we may get into some slightly more advanced subjects, but the key to this is that even though under the hood, this is all being done using this standard traditional music interchange format called ABC, you don't have to know anything about ABC to take advantage of the tools and to use them to learn tunes. It's only if you want to write your own tune books or modify the tunes that are in these tune books that you have to actually understand anything about ABC. And that's going to be the subject for next week, which is going to be about how I made those tune books and how you can make your own. So again, a thank you to Comhaltas San Diego, and we're going to go ahead and get started. First thing I want to do is Comhaltas is requiring this to be a minimal fee event. We have to ask at least a donation for something. So I'm going to put a, let me get into the chat here. I'm going to put a link in the chat to my tip jars, and these are on PayPal or Venmo. Comhaltas is asking $2 donation for the event, if that's possible. If it's a problem, you don't have Venmo or PayPal, don't worry about it. I'll cover it. I don't want $2 to be between you and getting this information, so don't worry about it. Also, the tip jar information will be present on the Tunebook page that I'm going to share with you. So if you don't get it from the chat here, you can there's links directly on the Tunebook page. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a link into the chat here for the tune books. Let me where am I? There we go, tune books. Okay, so if you go into the chat, I'm going to put a link to a website, and it's this michaeleskin.com tunebooks.html. And if you go to this site, all you have to do is go to this website. And is everybody able, just to make sure everybody's just nod your head if you're able to see the Tunebooks created with Michael Eskin's ABC Transcription Tools site. Everybody see it okay? Okay, good. Okay, so if you go to this site, what you'll see is there are a bunch of tune books here. There's the King Street Sessions tune book. This has over 1,000 tunes in it. There is this one called 50 Traditional Irish Session Tunes at Various Speeds. There's the CCE Dublin 2001 tune book. This is a bunch of tunes that the CCE Dublin chapter uses for teaching their students, and a bunch of others. But the one we're going to use today for the demos is one that I put together recently for the O'Flaherty's Irish Retreat. Also the tip jar information is here as well. So here's the same information as I put in the chat if you need to get to that after the seminar. But I'm going to use this one here for the O'Flaherty's Irish Retreat tunes played slowly. So if you click on that, you'll see it takes you to this section of the page here. And there's actually a video here that shows you the information I'm about to tell you about how to download these tune books and use them. So you can watch this video if you want. It'll walk you through exactly what I'm about to show you. But if you look down further here, you'll see that there are a number of these tune books, and these are just PDF files, plain old PDFs that you can open in Adobe Acrobat or whatever it is you use for PDF readers. On a computer, I use Adobe Acrobat. On my iOS devices, I use an app called Goodreader, and it works quite nicely in that as well. And you can see here there are different versions of the tune book for different instruments. So just with standard notation, mandolin tab, tenor banjo tab, guitar tab, tin whistle tab. And so you can pick the version that you want to work with. So if I'm going to just assume that you just want to work with the standard notation version now. So you'll just click on click to download, and it'll open up the PDF file in your browser. Now, it depends on which browser. It may actually save the file directly, but I'm using Firefox here, and it opens it directly in the browser. And you can see we have a tunebook here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save this tunebook to my computer and open it in Acrobat. And in Firefox, there's a little arrow, there's a little download button right there. It says downloads to a folder, and it's going to save it, and I'm going to just put it in my downloads folder. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and close this. And so what I've got now is if I go to my downloads folder, I have that PDF file. So it's retreat tunes played slowly, standard notation.pdf. And if I wanted a different one, for example, if I wanted the mandolin tab version, I could click that, and it'll open in the browser, and then I can just save it. And it's a good idea to save it because if it's just in the browser and you switch to a different web page in that browser tab, you'll effectively lose the PDF. So it's best to save it if you can. And I'll close that, and we'll go back to my downloads directory, and you'll see now there's two PDF files. There's one for the mandolin and one for standard notation. Okay, so now I'm going to open up that PDF file, and it'll open in Adobe Acrobat on my computer here. And everybody can see Acrobat here. You can see the O'Flaherty's Irish Music Retreat 2024. Yeah, good, yes, no? Someone give me a thumbs up. Okay, you can see it, good. All right, so we have O'Flaherty's Irish Music Retreat 2024. And I'm gonna just zoom out a little bit so you can see that these are actually pages in the PDF file here. So we've got a title page. All of the tunebooks have a very similar structure. There's the title page, then there's the table of contents, and then there are the tunes. And if you click on any of the names of the tunes in these tunebook, for example, if I want to go to the Merry Blacksmith, it'll jump right to that page in the tunebook. And then on the left and right side of the pages are these little arrows. This arrow takes you back to the table of contents. And I'll go back to the Merry Blacksmith. And this arrow takes you to a sorted index that's at the end. So there's a table of contents usually at the front and an index at the end that's sorted alphabetically. And they both work the same way. So I can click on My Darling Asleep and it'll take me to that page. Okay, so far this just looks like every other PDF tunebook you've probably seen, and plenty of them out there. The one difference is that you can click on that title and it will open that tune in a web browser in a player. This is actually my tool in its kind of, how can I describe it? This is the sort of in the tunebook playing mode. So you notice there's no ABC here, it's just a player. And once you're on the player, you have a bunch of options. You can just play it, click the play button. Was everybody able to hear that okay? Yeah, okay, good. You can turn on a metronome if you want to play with a metronome. If you're on a big screen like I am, oftentimes you'll see this wide view button come up, and this gives you this nice big. You can go back to the normal view. So when you're on this page, when you're in the player, you can set it to loop. You can click this little loop button here, and now when it plays, it's the end of the loop. And so on. If you want to slow it down, you can just change this. This is a percentage. You can see the little percent sign here. So if we wanted it at half speed, we could just put in 50 there. And now when we play it, it'll play at half speed. And for the longest time, this was kind of the way that people would use the Tunebooks, is they would come into this player and then they would just use the speed control to change the speed. But I thought, yeah, the way that I learn tunes is I get a tune and I typically get a recording of a tune and then I play it slowly. I bring it into a software tool like a Transcribe, and I play it, I slow it down, and then I learn it slowly, and then I increase the speed as I get more of the tune. And I wanted to emulate that same method of learning because I found that to be very effective. I've learned hundreds of tunes that way. And so I decided to build a training system into this tool that makes it extremely simple to do that same thing. And it's all you have to do is just click this thing that says Start Tune Trainer. And you can see it's another, it looks like the player, except there's some differences here. What this is this will loop through the tune multiple times at a starting tempo of 50%, and you can put any number you want here. So if you wanted to start at 60%, that would be fine. And then the ending tempo, so it's going to go from 60% to 100%. Each time, it's going to increment the tempo, in this case, every time through the tune. So it's going to play through the tune one time, and then it's going to increment the tempo by 10%. And you can set this, for example, if you wanted to play at 60% 3 times before it incremented, so it would play 60% 3 times the tune, then it would increment it to 70% 3 times through the tune, 80% 3 times through the tune. And it'll do that all the way up to 100%, or whatever the ending tempo is. And once it gets to the ending tempo, it'll stay there. So I'll give you an example here. I'm going to just set that to 1. If you change any values in this screen here, you're going to want to click Apply Tune Trainer Settings and reload it. That just kind of reinitializes it. And so what we've got now is a training session that starts at 60% speed, ends at 100% speed, increments each time through the tune by 10%. I'll tell you what, I'll make that 20% just so to save a little bit of time. And I'll go ahead and click play. And what you'll see is it'll give you a little countdown, because I play like accordion and concertina, that kind of thing. I need time to, I don't want it to start as soon as I click play. I want to have time to pick up my instrument and start practicing. So if you want to count down, this is checked by default, and you can set how many seconds, if you have to go across the room to grab your mandolin or something. But anyway, I'll leave the countdown on. You'll see there'll be a 5-second countdown, count in, and then the tune will start at 60%. So here's our countdown. And down in the corner here is a little progress indicator that shows you how far you are through this training session. So we'll let it get through the first time. The first time it's going to be a little slower, so we have to wait a little bit. Now it's at 80%, jumped up 20%. Now at full speed, 100%. And then once it gets to 100%, it'll just keep looping at 100%. When you close the trainer window, you can reopen the player by just clicking the little play button in the corner here, and it'll bring back the player. One of the things I do want to mention is that on almost every thing in this tool, you'll see these question marks. You'll see these question marks up in the corner. And if you click on those, those will take you directly to the section of the user guide that's for that particular feature. So the tool itself has a very extensive user guide with a lot of information about every aspect of the tool. So do take a look at those help screens if you want more information about any particular feature. So I'm going to go ahead. And close this, and we're going to do it again, but with a different Tunebook. So I'm going to go ahead and get the mandolin tab on again here. So here's the mandolin tab book, and you can actually use these on the website. I mean, they do work from here. The problem being that it's just in the browser, so you really do want to make sure to save it to your computer. And I'll go ahead and find that PDF that we downloaded earlier. So here's the mandolin tab version of it. And you can see it looks very much like the previous one. So we'll click on, for example, the Banshee. And again, we have a table of contents at the start, index at the end. So we'll click on the Banshee. And what you can see here is this actually has a tablature for mandolin. And so these are the 4 strings and these are the fret numbers. And they work just like the other one. This takes you to the index. And we'll click on the Banshee again. This takes you back to the table of contents. And we'll click on the title. Again, it'll open in, come on, internet. Sometimes, let me do it again. Sometimes my router decides to get cranky. There we go. Okay, so now we have the tune in the player. And you can see it's got the mandolin tab. And for this case, I'll go ahead and say the wide view. And I'll just play it, and you'll hear it actually has a mandolin sound. And again, I'll open it in. I'll open it in the Tune Trainer. So here now we're in the Tune Trainer, and this time I'll just do. Let's say we'll start at 50%, and we'll only go to 75% speed, and we'll increment by 25%. And I'll go ahead and apply this Tune Trainer settings, and we'll do this time in the wide view. Just so it's bigger, and I'll go ahead and start the training session. Here's your 5-second countdown, so you can pick up your mandolin. That'll speed up to 75%. And the key being you have complete control over how fast it starts, how fast it ends, how many times you want it to stay at that time, at that speed. So if you want to play it 10 times at 50% before it increases the speed, you just change this loop counter to 10 and it'll play it 10 times before it increases the speed. So this is a very flexible system for allowing you to set up your training for however you want. And once you set up these values, the next time that you open the trainer, it retains those values. So like, for example, if I actually made that 10, and now if I close this, and let's say I open up another tune in the tune book here, like let's say Blarney Pilgrim, and I open the tune trainer, you can see that these values are the same. So it retains it. So if you have kind of a pattern that you like to use for your practice, the tune trainer remembers your settings and it uses them the next time you use it. I'm going to do one more variant of the tune books here. We'll actually pick a different tune book. I'm going to go up to, let's say, we'll take the CCE Dublin tune book. So this is actually a really nice tune book. I'm going to get the tin whistle version of this one. I think it's 116 tunes. So it'll download this one. It's a little bigger file. Take a little bit of time. Okay, so, and I'm going to go ahead and download that one. And we'll go to, sorry. We'll open up the whistle tune book. So here's the CC Dublin tune book, tin whistle tab. Here's the table of contents. You can see there's a lot of tunes in here. We will take the, let's see, let's pick a tune. How about Konigsman's, no, we'll say Mary Blacksmith. So here's a Mary Blacksmith, and this is the tin whistle version, and you can see that it has tin whistle tab. And these are the fingerings on the tin whistle, where these indicate the fingers from top to bottom, and the little plus sign at the bottom tells you that's the second octave. And again, I can click on the title, and it opens in the player. And now, if I remember correctly, this should play actually with a whistle sound. And I'll open it in the trainer, and I won't play the whole thing, but we'll just play just a little bit of it in the trainer at half speed. So now I gotta pick up my whistle so I can practice. And so works exactly the same way for all the tunes in all the different tune books. So going back to that tune book, again, if you go to the end, you'll see there's a sorted index by name, and you can click on any of these. Like we want to go to the Geese in the Bog, there's Geese in the Bog. So all of these tune books are totally free and available for many different instruments. Everything from mandolin tab. Some of them have fiddle fingerings. This might be useful for the fiddle players. Let me go ahead and let me go back to the O'Flaherty's one, because there were some nice variants there. So the fiddle fingerings one, this is a little different than mandolin tablature. This was actually something that was, I'm going to go ahead and save this one. This was actually something that was requested by a fiddle teacher. And he said, well, the mandolin tab is great, but that doesn't really help my fiddle students. What they want to know is, they want to know which string and which finger to use. And so that's this format where it tells you the string name and which finger to use. So it's just another variant. The tool that produces this is extremely flexible in terms of the sort of stuff it can produce. And so fiddle players may find this interesting. And if you play these tunes like Bird on the Bush, I'm pretty sure this comes up with a fiddle sound. Yeah. Okay, so this one had a piano sound. I didn't put fiddle sounds in that one. But you can see, again, we have the fiddle fingerings for this one. Another variant would be, let's see, guitar tab, for those of you who play guitar. Download it. Open it. This will be in guitar tablature. You'll see 6-string tablature here. This is for standard tuned guitar. It's actually possible to create other tune books with other guitar tunings, but that's more a subject for next week. And again, we can click on the title and it'll open the player. Okay, so any questions so far on anything I've showed you? Are we all good? All right. So I'm going to now show you something a little bit slightly more advanced, and it's things you can do once you actually get to that play screen. So if you're in, let's just say the Retreat Tunes play. So we're going to just take the standard one here. Okay, so here's the standard notation version of the tune book. And I'm going to click on, find a good tune here. We'll stick with the Merry Blacksmith. So I'll click on the Merry Blacksmith. And as you notice, the tune books oftentimes have a specific instrument sound that the tunes play with, and it's actually kind of baked into the tune book. There's information in the tune book that says, for this tune, I want you to play it with a mandolin sound or a flute sound or a whistle sound. But it's actually possible to change the sound that gets played if you don't want to use the default one. So by default, for example, this tune book uses a piano sound. But if you wanted some other sound, for example, you wanted it to play with, I don't know, a vibraphone, what you're going to do is just click on the settings here. And this brings up a little dialog that has a bunch of options for the sounds to use for the playback. And there's a melody sound, a bass sound, and the chord sound, and then there's volumes for the bass and the chords. So I'm going to change the melody here. And there are, just to kind of show you, there are what are called sound fonts. And sound fonts, the way I describe them is it's kind of like back when people would buy keyboards, you know, when synthesizers first came out, you know, you would buy a Roland keyboard or a Yamaha keyboard or a Casio keyboard or a Technics keyboard or a Korg keyboard, and they all had a piano sound in them. It was always like patch 1 or patch 0 was a piano, but the different manufacturers' interpretation of what a piano should sound like was different. And that's the way these sound fonts are. They're like different manufacturer keyboards that have slightly different sounds. So you can pick these different sort of high-level options for like all of the sounds. I happen to like Fat Boy for the stuff I do. And they have funny names. They're open source. They're open source sound libraries, and they all have these kind of odd names. But the key being that you can pick your instrument here. So I can say, instead of acoustic grand piano, I want to use a vibraphone. And let's see, for the bass, I'm going to change the bass to, instead of being grand piano, I'm going to have it be a synthesized little bass. And I'll leave the chords, I'll make the chords a harpsichord. And because this tune book was already preset for piano, I need to tell the player to override any settings that were in the tune book with these settings. So sometimes if you set these all up and you play and you don't hear the sound change, just check this box and that'll force it to use those instruments. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And now when I play this tune, it's going to sound very different. And those changes will apply when you're running the tune trainer. And that setting will stick until you change it. So for example, if I go back to the tune book and open up another tune, like the Banshee, and play it, you'll hear it's going to use those same settings. And if you want to go back to letting it use whatever was in the tune book, you just need to open up that settings and just uncheck that box. And now it will be back to the piano. So I literally added that yesterday because I thought it really should be easy for the player to be able to change the sounds. And before it was possible, but it was quite a bit more complicated.
Michael, why do you like Fat Boy? Just out of curiosity.
Well, I'll show you. Let me show you the default. So if you go to like the session.org, a lot of how to describe this. So I'm using a framework called ABC that had a default sound let me show you what it would have sounded like originally before I ever added all these sound fonts. This would have been the piano sound, and I find it a little bit strident. But each of them is a little different. Like Fat Boy is a little bit more, Fat Boy is a little bit more mellow. And like Musing has its own. So I like just a slightly less strident sound of Fat Boy, but you can set whatever you want as your preferred sounds. It's very, very simple. Some of these are better for just certain kinds of music, like this one called Canvas is kind of for, how would I describe it? It's a really low res kind of a sound. You'll see what I mean here. It doesn't sound particular. It's like it might be useful for certain kinds of music. But there are like 133 sounds available. If we just kind of scroll through all of them, there are 127 what are called the standard general MIDI sounds. And then once you get beyond that, there are a bunch of custom instruments that I developed. So for example, that mandolin is a custom instrument. I have a concertina sound that is actually samples of my own concertina. Same thing for the accordion sounds, Cajun accordion. So for example, if I change this to concertina, you'll hear now we get the concertina for the melody. And this can be really handy if you're, for example, I'm going to bring up the mandolin one again. Let's go ahead and pick a tune. I'll say the Banshee. So we have the mandolin tab here, and I'm going to turn off the override for a second, and it'll play with the mandolin sound. But let's say I'm a bouzouki player. So I'm going to change the melody instrument here to this Irish Bouzouki 2, and I'm going to set the override on. So, for example, an octave mandolin tuned in as would have the same tuning as the mandolin, so it can use the same tab, but the sound is going to be an octave lower. I'll change it to a different one here. We'll make it we have another Irish bouzouki, slightly different sound. Or even tenor banjo. I'll go up to the banjo here, it should be there. So again, it's a very, very flexible system and very easy to use. And again, if you just want to kind of go back to the default, uncheck that box, and now we'll get, it should be mandolin again. Okay, so again, any questions on what I just showed you about the instrument changes? I hope that's pretty easy to use. Like I say, I just literally added that yesterday to make it as simple as possible from the trainer. One of the problems is that some tunes have specific instruments baked into them. Like the tunes that are in this tune book, they have that mandolin. They have a line of a command that says use the mandolin sound, and this is a case where you have to specifically tell the player to override what's in the tune book. But a lot of times, for example, if tunes come in from something where they haven't put the instrument in, then what will happen is that whatever you set in here will be used as the sounds, even if you don't check this box. So basically the idea is that if there's no sound specified in the tune, and sometimes people do that, they don't really care, they just want it to play, then whatever you have set up here, this becomes kind of the default for the playback in your tool. So any tune you get from anywhere will play with the sound you pick in this dialog box. I'm sorry, and if you check this box, then even if the tune had sort of baked in instrument selection, it'll override it. So this sets the defaults for the tool. If you don't, by default, the tool uses just a piano sound. So if you don't change anything ever, you're going to hear piano for the melody, bass, and chords. And this allows you to have some control over just kind of what you hear. Another thing is nice is if, for example, if we wanted to have mandolin, the volumes can be also handy too. I should have talked about that. So if we'll switch this to mandolin, and I find it, there's mandolin. And I'm going to change the chord volume to 0. And now when I play it, what you'll hear is we won't have any chords, we'll just have the bass. And the same thing for the, if you want to take out the bass and chords, you can set them both to 0. That's one way of getting rid of bass and chords. If you want to get rid of the melody, you just want to hear the bass and chords. So let's say you've got the tune and you just want to play along with some backup. There at the very top of the list of instruments, there's one that says mute. So now we're going to mute the melody. We're going to have piano on the bass and the chords. And that'll work in the tune trainer as well. And again, to get back to the player, just click the little play button in the corner. So there's a lot you can do with this. You can either set the volumes to 0 for these guys, or you can just set them to mute. So you could, for example, if I wanted to mute the let's say just mute the bass. I can select the instrument for the bass to be mute, and now play it. And then I'll go ahead and unmute it. So again, a lot of flexibility in this dialogue for having the tune sound however you want. And again, this is saved. So once you set this up, it'll become the default behavior for the tool going forward. Now, this can be a problem sometimes if you've checked this box and you forgot that you checked the box and you're like, wait a minute, why is this not playing with a, it's supposed to be a whistle and why am I hearing piano? The thing to do is to open up the settings and just make sure you uncheck that box, because this will override whatever's in the tune. Okay, that's kind of that's the majority of the use case. This is like the 95% of what you would do with this thing normally. So I want to show you just a few things that are available here once you close this player. And it has to do with the things that are in the corners. And the first thing I want to show you is that this one will take you to a little information screen that tells you what you can do on this full screen view. So it tells you to click the play to play the tune, click the PDF, just little instructions for this view of the tune. Or you can click this little user guide link here, and that will open the user guide in a new tab. So one thing you can do is let me go back to the Mary Blacksmith here. So we came into this from the tune book. We were in the player, and then we were done. If you wanted to create, so like this came from, let's go back into Acrobat. So here's this tune book. It's got this one has about what, 15, 16 tunes in it. But let's say you decided that, I'm going to work on, let's pick another tune here, Harvest Home. And one thing you'll notice is that my hornpipes, my player, when it plays hornpipes, they actually sound like hornpipes. So let me give you a sense of what that's like. They actually swing the hornpipes correctly, so. A big part of what I've done in this is to try to make ABC, try to make the tunes, because we're not talking too much about ABC here, but try to make the tunes sound somewhat like traditional Irish music, and getting the swing and the feel right. It was a real big part of it. Okay, so let's say I've opened up the Harvest Home. So again, the sequence was I was in the tune book and I decided I wanted to work on Harvest Home. And I decide, well, I think this is a great tune. I want to share this tune by itself with the rest of the people in my session. So if we go ahead and close the view here, you'll see there's a PDF button in the corner here. And what this will do is it will open up an export PDF page. And then you can pick your usual kind of stuff like the paper size and orientation and that kind of thing. And we'll go ahead and click OK, and you give it a name, and it will actually generate a PDF file for that one tune. And so here it is. Here's the PDF, and I can go ahead and download that PDF. Okay, in this case, it actually saved it already for me, and so here we are in Acrobat, and you can see now we have Harvest Home, and this is not an interactive. This is just a plain old PDF. This isn't a tune book linked thing or anything like that. This is just a PDF file, one-page PDF that you can then email to people for that one tune. So that's a really nice little shortcut that's on the full screen view here. God, I got so many tabs open here. Let's go back. Harvest Home. So that's the PDF. That's a PDF exporter, and again, it does just the tune you're looking at. It'll export that tune. So that is kind of the extent of the main Tunebook use case. Before I go on to more advanced topics, and this is going to have to do with, this actually requires us to go into the tool. The idea is that I wanted it to be so that you never had to concern yourself with the fact that this is ABC. You notice we haven't looked at any codes here. We haven't looked at any, nothing about this is complicated. All you've done is you've downloaded a PDF, you've found a tune, you've clicked on the title, and it brought it up, in this player, and then you were able to do things with it. Oh, something I forgot to mention. This button, export audio or image. So let's say not only did you want to send the PDF file to the people in your session, but you're like, I want an MP3 file of that, or a WAV file of that tune that I can send out, an actual audio file. You can click any of these buttons here. So I'm going to go ahead and say save as MP3 file with reverb, and it'll actually generate an MP3. And if I open that up, this is now going to play. So you can save out the audio file for the tune. You can also save out, pictures of the tune. It'll actually like save out if you wanted a JPEG file of the tune. Let's see here, it should open up a little picture viewer. Let's see what it does. Yeah, there we go.
Michael, I have a question.
Yeah.
So you applied a swing tempo or rhythm to Harvest Home.
Yeah.
Was that done at the programming level, or is that something that's can be customized?
Yeah. So we can talk about that. We'll talk about that in a minute. It actually automatically will swing hornpipes, and there's ways of setting the amount of swing for the hornpipes. The tool actually knows about that it's a hornpipe, and it applies the swing. There's ways of specifying, and again, this is actually, now we're getting into more having to understand about the actual ABC. But by default, the tool will swing hornpipes with a sort of a swing factor that I picked, but you actually have control over the amount of swing, or you can actually tell it not to swing them at all if you want. For example, if you're playing like English hornpipes or something that aren't supposed to be swung, it's possible to actually tell the tool to not swing the hornpipes. So there's a lot of information about the swing. Actually, if we go into the in here, there's a whole bunch of information about swing, about how it actually does the swing and how you can control the swing. But this is more on the authoring side. By default, the tool will swing hornpipes, and it will use either a value that's set by the person who built the tune book, because you can put it in the tune, much like you can put the instruments in the tune, you can put the amount of swing you want for a particular tune in the tune itself, so that when it's played from the tune book, it'll use that swing. Or you can tell it to, to override the tool's default behavior, which is to swing hornpipe. So there's a lot of control, and it's detailed in the user's guide. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Awesome, great. Any other questions before we kind of move on to a little bit more technical? Because we're going from this point, we're going to be talking a little bit about actually what's going on behind the scenes here, and only specifically for the purposes of practice, and not so much for the how to create one of these. But there are some advanced things you can do with practice beyond playing the entire tune, and I do want to cover those in case you want to kind of take advantage of that. But it does require you to actually get into the tool. So
I have a couple of questions. I'm assuming there's not an index for all the tunes in this program, you have to go individually to each collection to look at their table of contents?
So yeah, I mean, in other words, the tune books. So the thing is interesting about it's not. How can I describe this? The when you click on a tune book tune, what's actually in there? I'm going to hover over this. Let me hover. What is this doing? Oh, because I'm looking at the single tune. Let me go to this one here. So when I hover over that, do you see that link there, that big long link?
Yeah?
So that link actually contains everything that it takes to create that tune in the tune book. That link actually is the tune and everything
Okay.
it takes to format it. So there is no like centralized index. The index and the table of contents get created when you publish the tune book. There are, and we'll be talking about this next week. There's a setup in the tool that says, I want to add an index and a table of contents to this tune book. And the tool will take care of building those for you. And that index is specific to that PDF file. It literally says, like, when I click on this tune, go to that page inside this PDF.
Okay.
And then on a particular tune, there's going to be a link back to the tool that has all the information it takes to play that tune. So none of this, the beauty of this is none of this is stored anywhere. This is not on a server. This is all actually completely self-contained. The tune book itself has the pieces in it to create itself. It's the only way I can describe it. So there's nothing outside of the tune book that has anything to do with the index. The index is generated at the time the PDF is created.
So in other words, if I wanted to see the music for Rose and the Heather,
Yeah.
I would have to look at each tune book's table of contents.
No. So that's more on the authoring side. So for example, we can talk, okay, let's actually because probably to answer that question, I need to actually go into the tool, okay?
Okay.
So the tune books themselves are collections of tunes. Like if you have your session, like you've got your tune learning group and you want to have a tune book for that group, you would bring all of those, you would use the tool and you would get those ABCs from wherever you get them. They can come from the session.org, or they can come from a search engine that I have built into the tool, and I'll show you how to use that in a second. But again, that's more on the authoring side. You bring them all into the tool, and then there's like a page setup where you say, I want a table of contents and a title page, and here's what I want it to say, and I want these headers and footers, and I want page numbers and all that stuff. And then when you export that PDF file, you end up with this tune book that's that collection of tunes. So that's, I think of it as kind of like, I think of the tool as sort of as having these two sides. One is a production side, that's how you make these tune books, and one is a consumption side. The consumption side is what we're doing this week. The production side is what we'll talk about in detail next week. But to kind of give you a preview of that, first I do want to cover one last subject related to using the tune books for practice, and then we'll go a little bit into what's possible with kind of minimal technical expertise to do the kinds of things you're talking about. For example, if you're looking for a version of Rose and the Heather, I'll show you how to do that. But I do want to talk about one slightly more advanced way of using the tune books. So let's say I've got Königsmann's Rambles. So I open that, and now it's opened in the player here. And let's say I want to learn this tune, but I want to, instead of learning it the entire tune at a time, even in the tune trainer, I just want to practice the A part of this tune. So there's no way to do that from this player or from this view. You actually have to go into the tool. And we talked about this brings up the help, this brings up the PDF generator for that tune. This will take you back to the player. But to get to the actual tool, there's these zoom arrows here. And so now we're actually in the authoring tool. This is the thing that was used to create the tune book in the first place. And there's a lot of stuff in here because this is like, it actually has all the fonts that were used because I wanted specific fonts. But when we get down to the bottom here, this is the ABC. And again, we're not going to talk about ABC so much, but I just want to show you that, like, generally you'll see there'll be a whole bunch of stuff at the top of the tune. It'll start with an X, and there's going to be a bunch of information, the name and all that. And these are called tags. But at the very bottom, you're going to see the ABC here. And just to kind of give you a preview, you can kind of see this as a little D. And I'm going to turn a little feature here called highlighting on. And when I select that, you'll see that the D lights up over here. And if I select this, like this BAB, lights up over here. And there's a one-to-one correspondence between every letter over here and the note name over here. And the key is when you're in this view of the tune, you can still click play and it'll work just like before. But with one difference, if you select part of the tune, like we're going to select just the A part and click play, now we're going to have just the A part in the player. We can bring that into the tune trainer, it'll be just the A part. So some people would, rather than working on the whole tune, so, and then let's say after you've done that for a while, you can then select the B part of the tune, and you can kind of, it's even if you don't get deep into ABC, you can kind of see there's something that kind of looks like a repeat bar here. It looks like that. And there's a double ending here with the bracket, and this repeat here, which corresponds to this here. So you can usually figure out, it's like here's 2 lines here, and here's 2 lines here. We'll take the last 2 lines. You can see that in this case they've lit up because I've turned on highlighting. And if I play now, I've got the B part. I'll start the tune trainer on that. So again, that workflow looks, I'm going to kind of repeat what I did there. So I'm going to say we're going to take Haggett the churn. I open it in the player. Let's say I just want to practice that first line. If I just play it here, it's always going to play the entire tune. But if I want to do it a piece at a time, I can close this. I can close this, go to the zoom windows here. I can find the tune. I can select the part I want to learn, and I can click play. And it'll only show that part.
And then you can loop that if you want.
And then you can loop that. Yeah, so it works exactly the same way. So if I play it, I could loop it in the player. I could slow it down in the player, if I don't want to use the tune trainer. On a metronome. I'll open up the tune trainer. I'll turn off the countdown just to start it right up. So that gives you a lot of flexibility. It's just like, these last measures really giving me I'm having a lot of trouble with this last measure. It'll do just, right, we just put it on loop. Okay. So a lot of flexibility there. So that's the only time, like I said, it's a slightly more advanced way of using the trainer. Once you're comfortable kind of using the player and using the tune trainer, then it's just a simple matter of clicking those arrows. And to get back to this view, the original view that you came in on, you just click the arrows again. It takes you back to that full screen view. So that's that's the tool, and then click it again, and then you're back to the full screen view, and then you can go back to the player here, and this will be the normal use of it. So so I mean it's not too complicated, you know. But I know a lot of times people say, well, I want to learn it in parts, and this is the best way to do that. And then once you're here, then things get really interesting. We'll talk more about that next week, but I'll just give you a little preview. For example, if you wanted to switch to mandolin tab, or guitar tab, or whistle tab, or dagad, or ukulele, or you just want the note names. There's your note names. Let's go ahead and open up, take a different one here. We'll take Harvest Home. And okay, so here we came in. This is what it looked like when we came in from the tune book. We can close that. We can close this. And here's Harvest Home. Oh, if when you come into this view, if it looks like this, and sometimes on people with laptops and smaller screens, it'll look like that, where it's up top and bottom. You're going to want to zoom, and it even tells you on the top. It says you want to see the editor and notation side by side, zoom out. And you generally do a control minus or a command minus, and you just do that until it jumps to the side. So that's something that a lot of times people say, oh, I come in, how do I get the side by side view? And it tells you right there on the top, it's up that little banner. You just want to zoom your browser window out. And once you've zoomed it out once, then the browser generally remembers the side by side zoom view for this page, and it'll give you the correct view. So that's just something to be aware of. So I'll just give you a little preview of a couple of simple things that you can do on this page. So for example, let's say here's Harvest Home, and it's in D, it's in the key of D, and it's showing notes. And I wanted to instead change it to mandolin tab. So here it is in mandolin tab. Actually, let's go back to notation. I'm gonna do this in reverse. I want to change it from Harvest Home in the key of D. I want to put it in the key of E. I'm going to raise it up one step, and then I want to put it into mandolin tab. So I can go ahead and I can hit transpose up, and every time you click this button, it's going to take it up half a step. And there are options to go up a full step and an octave, but the simplest case, if you just click it, it goes up half a step. It'll transpose all the notes, the chords, and the key signature. And now when we play this tune, you'll see it's in E. Which is kind of cool. And then we could just switch to mandolin tab. And now we have it in mandolin tab instead of and it's in E. We can play it. And let's say you're like, I want to send out this crazy version in E to my friends at my session. You click the PDF button. We'll call it Harvest Home Mandolin in E. And now we have a PDF of the tune in E that we can send to people. So there's a fair bit of flexibility there. I can find the right tab. Right. So very easy to use the tool to have to figure out which one had the, here it is, okay. So very easy to transpose the tunes up or down. You know, a lot of times you'll find a version of a tune, it'll be in an odd key and you want to put it in a different key. It's very, very simple to use these transpose and down and up buttons. I actually keep track of, you know, the features that people use, and by far the most common thing people do when they use this tool is they transpose tunes with it, because it'll do it'll do one tune, or it can do an entire tune book at one time. It'll transpose, it can do bulk, how would you describe it, batch transpositions of tunes, and a lot of times people want to use it for that sort of thing. Let's see, without getting too technical, let's see, what else can we do from here? Let's see. Yeah, a couple of other tablatures available. There's Mandola tablature, Dadgad tablature, whistle tablature, and that sort of thing. When I talked about the tunes, so for example, let me find one of those tunes from the mandolin book, because I want to show you. Okay, so here's a mandolin tune. We're overriding. Let's turn the override off. See, that was the case. I came in and it was supposed to be mandolin, but it played with piano. That's because I had this override turned on here. Turn it off, and that'll be mandolin. Now, when I talked about, and again, now we're kind of on the technical side of things here, because you don't have to know any of this to be able to use it, but I think there were some questions about controlling things like swing and all that. I'm going to actually look at, I've come out of this full screen view, and I'm going to look in the tool. And if you actually look at the top of the file here, you can see there's information with the program, these are the, quote, baked in instruments for that tune, in case you were wondering, like, how does that actually work? It's actually part of the tune that specifies what instruments should be used for the tune. Just to show you an example here with the swing, let me go ahead and, okay, so here we have Harvest Home. Let me put it back in standard notation. I'll transpose it back down to D. Let's just play it. And now we're going to get into, this is, again, we're getting slightly technical here, but I'm going to actually change the swing, and I actually have a directive that's called swing, and I'm going to change it to make it more swingy. And the swing goes from like zero, from -1 to 1, where 0 is no swing. Greater than 0 is kind of front weights the notes, and less than 0 back weights the notes. So if you think like Scottish snaps would be like an inverted swing. So I'm gonna increase the swing, and you'll definitely hear it sounds different. I can slow it down a little bit. If I make that a minus value, here's going to sound Scottish. Like a Strathspey rhythm. So there's a lot I was going to show. Just you're asking about swing. It's completely controllable, and these kinds of things would be set up by the person making the tune book at the time they make the tune book. All the things like tempos and instruments and that sort of thing. And again, all of that information is in the user guide. But I don't want to get into any more about the actual ABCs themselves, because again, that's going to be more of a subject for next week. The goal of this this week is primarily about the use of the tune books. So before I go on to answer Judy's question about how to actually find the tunes, any questions? Any other questions about the main just tune book use?
I have one question. I was wondering what your recommended PDF reader is. It seems like you're using Acrobat.
Yeah, so Acrobat Reader should be free, I believe. You know, so that's what I use. But you can also, if you can also just take like any of these PDFs generally. So, for example, I'm on Firefox here. If you just drop them on your browser,
Oh,
that also works. because now almost every one of the browsers has a built-in PDF reader, and they work exactly the same way in the browser. You can just drop the PDF on your browser. So for example, I'm on Firefox here. I'm going to go ahead and launch, let me get another Chrome. Got Chrome running in my other window here. So here I have Chrome running, and I could just drop the PDF on Chrome, and it has a PDF reader built in, and it'll work exactly the same way.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah. Now, on mobile devices, it's a little, mobile devices are a little, things work exactly the same way on mobile. I mean, I'm obviously not demonstrating here on an iPad, but the player and the tune trainer and all that work exactly the same way on an iOS or Android device. The key being that you need to save your PDF file from the mobile device's browser. I mean, how can I describe it? So I like to save the PDF file from the mobile device's browser into a different program that I use for reading the PDFs. So Apple has their own Pages program, which I've tested, and it works with the PDF files that I create. I like to use, I say on iOS, I like to use Goodreader. I think it's a very inexpensive app. I use it for all of my PDF readers, and it's able to then launch, the tunes directly into Safari and then access the tool. So, there are PDF readers on Android. I'm not an Android user, but I do have many Android users who I know use the PDF Tunebook. So, you'd have to find a PDF reader. I think there may be Adobe Acrobat for Android. I'm really not sure. Let's see. Any other questions? Okay. Okay, so I want to address Judy's question, and this is really going more toward, now it's only 20 after 12, so I've got plenty of time for questions and more advanced subjects, but I would say basically we've covered everything that's about the PDF generation, about the use of the PDF Tunebooks. Again, the key being, go to this website, you'll find all of the Tunebooks that I've made there, and there are a lot of them, and not all of them are Irish. Some of them are really, really interesting. So for example, even though we're using this for practicing Irish tunes, for example, here is a tune book of Renaissance lute pieces, and actually, I do want to talk about one little thing. You'll see some of these tune books have what are called insipid versions, and insipid versions are really cool. The idea is that they're essentially a cheat sheet. So we saw the standard notation version. So like here's the standard notation version of the O'Flaherty Irish Music Retreat, and it's got the whole tunes in them. But it's a big, it's a 20-page document. Or in the case of a tune book like the King Street Sessions tune book, it's a 1,000-page document. Well, sometimes you don't really want the whole tune, you just want a cheat sheet. And the tool is able to create these cheat sheets for you. So, and this is something when you're authoring the tune book, you decide that you want to create one of these, what's called an Insipids version. And I'm going to go ahead and download the O'Flaherty's Insipids page. And you can see this looks very different. It's just the first few bars of each tune. If I open up that, page in Acrobat, you can see now we just have two columns. We have just the first few measures of each tune, but it works. Otherwise, it works exactly the same way. So I can click on Speed the Plow, and it opens the full tune in. And this gets really interesting when you have, for example, let's go up to. Let's see here. I want one of the bigger ones. Maybe okay, we'll do the Dublin one. Should be a Insipids, yeah. And there's a lot of flexibility in the tool as far as the format of these Insipids. This is a tune book that looks very much like a normal tune book, but now it takes you to the incipit instead of the full tune, and then we can click on Topin's favorite, and it opens up in the tool. So that's what, if you see these incipits versions, that's what those are about. They're the first line.
Wait, Michael, where are you saying? I'm looking for the Insipids version. Where am I
Yeah.
to find
Oh,
it again?
Generally, if you look on each of the tune books,
Uh-huh.
one of the options, for example, I go to O'Flaherty's Irish Retreat tunes.
Right, I clicked on that.
And if you scroll down, there'll be a standard notation version, and then there'll be standard notation incipits just below it.
Okay, yeah.
You see it? So if you click on, okay.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Okay, yes.
Yeah. So, and if you just, if you look, and generally most of the bigger tune books have insipid versions. For example, like the, oh heck, let's just go ahead and get it. Live dangerously. We'll go ahead and get the notation insipid version of the King Street Sessions tune book. This is a pretty big file, but let's see what it looks like. Here we go. So here we have, this is a tune book that has 1,000 tunes in it, over 1,000 tunes in it, and let me zoom out a little bit here, and you can see these are arranged, and there are literally 1,000 plus tunes in this tune book. It's crazy, and these are all cross-referenced, and then now you can have the full tune book if you want, but if you just want the cheat sheet, so we want we want to go to Carolyn's draft, and then it will open if the internet cooperates, if my computer cooperates. Let's try that again. Carolyn's welcome. There it is. And then it'll open that tune in there. So the Insipids version are just basically cheat sheets for the tunes. And there are, for most of the bigger tune books in the collection of tune books, there are generally insipid versions of, like, the King Street Sessions book. One of the other versions that you'll find up there is, if you really want something small, some people don't read sheet music. I've got friends who play tunes, but they don't know what to do with this. They don't read music at all, but they still want to be able to play the tunes, but they want something really small. You'll also see some options of tune books that are just text. So this is text insipits version. I'm going to download that, and again, just download it. Again, they're all free. Just download them, play with them. If we open that one up, this looks a little different. I mean, the front looks the same, but you can see here now it's just the letters of the notes for the first few bars of the 1,000 plus tunes that are in this tune book. But this part works exactly the same way. So here's Over the Moor to Maggie. We click on that, and now we get cooperate with me, internet. Over the Moor to Maggie. Thank you. And now you get the tune from there. So these are all, again, the tool is able to create all of those different formats. But which tune book you select to use just depends on what you need. If you just want to have something like this on your laptop or on your tablet, and you're comfortable, because a lot of times people they just want the letters. They don't even care about having the sheet music. They just, that's like, it goes, EDC. Okay, great. So that's all they need. So they'll have, this is a very, very compact way of having a lot of tunes in a very small space. And when you're making your tune books, the tool can create this for you. This was done completely automatically, and it took about, if you come next week, you'll see something like this takes about 3 seconds to do. It's very, very fast because it's not having to generate any notation. It's just putting out letters. So that's kind of that's another form of the tune books. Let me show you one last option on the tune books you may find. Again, this is all just variants of the tune books this is all just variants of the Tunebooks that are up there. Let me find one of these that has QR codes. These are these are crazy. Let me go back up to the top. So I think, let's see, do I have a QR code version of that one? No, let me find a different one. Sorry. Oh, if you need information about how to use the Tunebooks, you'll see this link on the page that says how to use the interactive Tunebooks, and it explains everything we've talked about here, including how to go back to the editor and that sort of thing. But I do want to find one of these QR code versions. That one's kind of big. Just want to find a smaller one here that's kind of fun. Which one is this? Okay, I'll go ahead and download this one. This is just another, again, nothing technical here. These are just another PDF that's available that you'll see if you're wondering like what's going on with these QR codes. I'll open up that version of this is again the CCE Tunebook, just like we saw before. We'll click on the Banshee, and you notice what we get is a QR code instead of the music. And if you scan that code with your phone, it will actually open up in the player. So you can imagine that you've got this tune and you've got it on your phone, you're at the session and you say, hey, I got this Banshee. You can just hold your phone up with that QR code to the other person in the session. They point their phone at it, they scan that, and then it opens up. And what they'll see on their phone is this. So there's some really kind of interesting use cases here for sharing tunes where you can generate these codes for you. Matter of fact, if you're got a phone, you can actually try holding it up to the screen and scan that and see if the cache jig opens up on your phone. But if you're wondering, like, what are these QR code versions that are on the website? That's what they're for. Let's see. And you'll see, like, okay, that was just QR codes. Here's one that's full notation plus QR code. So this is going to alternate the pages, where the first page is going to be the tune, and then the next page will be the QR code for the tune, and then the tune, and then the QR code for the tune. You know, and this is more on the authoring side again, but again, these are just all these variants of all the different Tunebooks have a whole bunch of different options. Now, I just do want to show you, just to show you that, you know, we've been talking a lot about the use of this for the traditional Irish music. This is a cultist thing, but you can play around with some of these other Tunebooks that are up here as well. So for example, sticking in the Irish, there's a collection of 200 O'Carolan tunes that that's in the public domain. And so for example, here we can download this version of the O'Carolan collection, and you know, here's 200 O'Carolan tunes. So we'll say, oh, I don't know, it's a big one that we might be familiar with. Okay, Bumper Squire Jones, where did that go? And we'll find it here on this page. So the O'Carolan collection, which I put together, I'm using a harp sound. I baked in a harp sound into all those, which I think sounds kind of cool. But there's variants up there that use guitar and octave mandolin and that sort of thing, if you like. But have some fun with these Tunebooks. Let's see, one more that's not necessarily. Yes, question. Did you have a question, Dr. Jeff? I see a hand raised there. So, okay. I do want to just chat briefly. I just want to show you this one Tunebook, and then I'm gonna address want to address Judy's question about finding tunes and how to get them in. Also, Linda pointed out to me that I've got this collection of tune books that I've put together. But if you actually go into the tool, you'll see a link at the very top. There's a bunch of links on the top for the user guide, tune sources. The Tunebooks link takes you to the Tunebooks page, but the tune sources one. Close some of these tabs here. My browser is starting to choke a little bit. The tune sources page has a bunch of links to other collections of ABC tunes and other tune books that other people have put together. So you can definitely check that out. These are all places where you can find sort of the raw material if you're looking for ABC for tunes. You know, a lot of times the sort of normal way that people would find tunes, you know, and certainly the way that I tended to work. Let me just close some tabs here. Let me open up the so if we go into these tune sources here, these are all the places where people find ABC files. And the way that most people would start off finding tunes is they would go to the session, and then the session has a tune search page, and then you might search for the Haggett to Churn and click search, and then it's going to come back with a bunch of matches, and then you'd click on that. And then you would look through all of the, you know, in 50 versions of the tune that are up there and try to find one that matches what you're expecting. But I'll just take the first one. On the session.org, you can click the ABC tab, and then you can copy it. And then you can go into the tool, and you can just paste it. That's a very common way that, you know, before I had anything built into the tool for finding tunes, you can always copy and paste ABCs from other places into the tune. So if I wanted to make a tune book and I wanted to use the ABCs on the session.org, I could search, okay, I want the Haggett to Churn, and then I want, let's say, the Gallagher's Frolics. And I'll take this first one here, and I'll take it over to the tool, and I'll just paste it in. And I can start to build up a tune book that way for collecting the tunes. But at some point in the project, there was a guy, Gavin Hennigan, who said that he had a collection of about 20,000 tunes that he wanted to search through, and could I help him, you know, figure out a way to search through them? And then I found another collection of tunes that are essentially a scrape of the session.org, and I built all of that into the tool. So one of the ways of adding tunes to this thing, if you're just starting from scratch, and again, now we're definitely on the authoring side, okay? So this is a preview of next week. But for example, if you wanted to find, let's say, a version of Haggett the Churn, there's a couple of options. One, you can just click search for tunes, and I have a search engine built right in. And this is actually, these indexes are local to the tool. They are not being pulled from the internet. They're actually a database built into the tool. And you have a couple of different collections. One is the Gavin Hennigan collection. The Folk Friends app is actually a scrape of the session.org. It's every tune that's in the session.org. So I can type Haggett the Churn. And then I have a bunch of options here. Let's say first variation found, match start of title only with chords. I'll say I would just want jigs. I'll have it return all the versions. And then when I search for it, you'll see it's going to give me, I still have how many I want max. And here's essentially the same results that I got from the session.org. If I want to, I could just add whatever's in this box to the tune book. So now I've got, you know, all of the versions of Haggett the Churn, and then I could play them and see which one I like best, and then edit them here. The player, if there's multiple, when you're doing editing of the tunes, if there's multiple tunes in the tune book, you can see that you can actually step through them here. You don't have to, it actually puts all of the tunes, makes all the tunes available in the player, or you can pick it out of this little pop-up here. So if you say, okay, I'm going to play the first version of Haggard the Churn, or the next version. Okay, so that one's an A. Here's the next version. So there is a search engine built right into the tool. If I go ahead, another way to get there is you can go add, and then there's a search and add. It takes you to the same place. But if I want just like a version, I could say Haggard the Churn, and we'll search for jigs. And I'll say, we'll go ahead and get, we'll get all of them. I can actually copy and paste out of this. So I can look at this and I can say, okay, I want this version. And then I can copy it and close it, paste it here. So another way of getting stuff in. If I just want versions that have chords, I could say, we'll say Gallagher's Frolics, and we'll say only return versions with chords. And here's a bunch of versions, and we can say, okay, yeah, okay, this one looks good. And copy it, paste it. So now I have a version of Gallagher's Frolics with chords. And you would go through and, it would say, okay, I want Gallagher's Frolics, and then let's say I wanted, I'll go ahead and just use the search for tunes here. And let's say I wanted, let's say Königsmann's Rambles. We'll say search, here's Königsmann's Rambles. And I just said first variation, I'm going to just return all of them. And you can see a bunch. Let's say I want only 10 versions of it. And I'll go ahead and add all of those. And I could sort through these and delete the ones that didn't really meet my requirements. So we've got all these different versions of Königsmann's Rambles now in the tool. I'll just go ahead and delete all of them except the first one. And so now I've got Gallagher's Frolics, Königsmann's Rambles. And let's say I want to add, I want to search for Kesh. And we'll just search for, we'll just say first version. And it'll find anything with the word Kesh in it. So you can see there are other tunes that have the word Kesh in it, but we just want the Kesh, that Kesh. We could delete all these from here and say add results to tune book. And it'll stick it on the end. So now we have the Kesh, and this is how you could assemble without ever having to leave the tool. You could do it all just from the search engines in the tool. But again, this is more for on the authoring side, but I did want to address Judy's question of finding tunes and how you, and of course, once they're in here, you can edit them. I mean, we can change these around, we could transpose them or say, well, I really want the Kesh in A. So we're going to, transpose the Kesh to A or, whatever. So there's ways of doing that as well. Okay, are there any other questions? Yes. I see a hand raised, but I'm assuming you have a question. Is there something I can answer?
I'm just curious, how robust are the chord pop chords? Can you do extended chords or diminished? Or
Yes.
That's probably for next week, right?
Yeah. So actually the full list of the chords. One second here. I actually posted this recently on a group. Let me show you the chords that are actually supported. Okay, see all these?
Oh my, yep. Okay, looks pretty comprehensive.
Yeah, and actually gets a bit crazier than that because not only can it, not only can you do the chords, but you can actually specify inversions when you're playing. So listen to this. First time, actually explain what's happening. The first time listen to it, it's going to play it just using kind of the defaults, which are going to be just the no inversions of the chords. But it's actually possible to not only specify all the those complex chords, but you can specify which inversion. First time is no inversions. So that's kind of a cool thing that got added. I've also got the ability to strum the chords. Let me see if I have an example of that. Strum chords, yeah. Let's see here. Just want to see a good demo for you here. Right. So this is a strum. This is, you can turn strumming on. You can, like in the middle of a tune, switch from strum to block chords and then back to block chords. Now it's going to go back to strummed chords. So there's a lot that it can do if you want to dive into the depths of it. These aren't necessarily so much on the authoring side. This is more on like pushing the ABC spec way beyond what it was ever intended to do in some ways. But yeah, I started building in things like strummed chords and inversion support and that sort of thing, and the ability to shift the basses up and down octaves, because sometimes, you know, people want the A note lower than the D, but sometimes they want the A note higher than the D, and there's ways of controlling all of that in the tool. All of this is all of this is in detail in the user guide. There's more information. This is like a 200-page guide I put together over time with demo videos and examples pretty much of everything going on. So. All right, let me just go back to the Tunebooks here. That is about it. There's, like I say, there's information in here about how to use the books and how to change the instruments. So please check that out if you get a chance. And I just want to sort of give a last opportunity to answer any questions anybody has before we call it a day.
You just go to my tip jars to find the Venmo or?
Yeah, so there's a tip jar here on the Tunebook site. That's probably the easiest way. I also can I'll put this in the chat as well. Let me just put the chat. Where'd the chat go? Oh, here's the chat. Yeah, so either of those. So yeah, so $2 recommended donation is fine. But yeah, have fun with the Tunebooks. I do update this every so often. So for example, like when the O'Flaherty's Retreat released their Tunebook in ABC format, it was, you know, it's if you come back next week, and I hope you will, if you're interested in creating stuff, you'll kind of be amazed how easy it is to create one of these Tunebooks. I mean, the O'Flaherty's Retreat Tunebook came out, you know, at 9 in the morning. I got it from Kendall. And by 10 o'clock, these were all up, including all the instrument variations, because literally to go from I'll give you an example, and this is just a preview of just how easy this is. So for example, I'm going to actually open up the source code for the Tunebook, the retreat tunes. So here's what the retreat tune looks like in the tool. And all this stuff at the top this actually gets created by the tool for putting in the table of contents and the playback links, which say it's piano and the volumes. And this is actually set up by and again, this is a preview next week. There's features that you can inject in that tell it like the title page title and whether you want to index and which sounds you want for each instrument. And if you want a QR code at the end, that's like, to your personal web page or something like that, it can do that. But once I had this, I took their Tunebook, I, injected in the fonts I wanted, and there's tools in the tool for features in the tool for injecting, like putting all of these font information into the tunes. But then let's say, okay, so I did the standard version. And then I said, okay, I want the mandolin version. Okay, now I want a guitar version. I want a whistle version. And I just export these to PDF. So I'll just give you a quick demo of that. So here's the all of the tunes. I could look at them, just like we were looking at the single tune. We can look at all the tunes that are in the Tunebook. And here's how fast it goes. I'm going to say export PDF, and I say, okay. Just a preview for next week. Okay, so now now here's my standard notational Flaherty's Tunebook that just got generated with the links and everything. It just works. Okay, now I'll go back and I want to do the mandolin tab version. Okay, switch to mandolin tab, export PDF. I'll just change the title. I'll say mandolin tab. Now we have a mandolin tab version. So again, it's just a preview of next week. Instead of that, I want a notes and snippets version of it, and I want I'll make it 2 columns. So now I want the incipits, but I want to be mandolin tab. These are fast because I don't have to generate so much data. And now we have an incipits version. So the idea is that the tool does all the work for you and allows you, and these are interactive. Click on Harvest Home. So the tool does all that for you, and it's really easy. I mean, there's, like any tool, there's going to be a bit of a learning curve, but you don't have to, because so much of this gets automated for you by the tool, the generation of, this information, you don't have to know what it's injecting. It does that for you. So like if I delete all this stuff and I just go to export PDF and inject PDF Tunebook features, when I click OK, you can see it just shoved all this stuff at the top for you out of that dialog. You didn't have to type any of that stuff. This dialog here allows you to do it all just by, oh, what title do you want on the title page? What do you want as a subtitle? How much space do you want between the tunes? That sort of thing. So again, this is all preview for next week, but the idea being that it just makes it just super, super easy to do. And we haven't really talked about all the stuff that's on this page, which is all of these features that are ways of injecting tablature for other instruments and getting the swing right and getting the rolls right and getting the reverb right, because the tool has effectively infinite capability for reverb settings and that sort of thing, so that not only does it look good, but it actually sounds the way you want it. And then there's all kinds of settings for how rolls get played and how tablature gets brought in and so on and so forth. They will cover all this next week, which fonts get used, for display. So if I don't want Comic Sans, I could have something else, you know, for the display. I don't know why I'm so hooked on Comic Sans. I get a lot of people think I'm crazy because I use Comic Sans for my Tunebooks, but I like it. So yeah, Jim.
Michael, can you, is it easy to change the metronome setting on a 6/8 jig to only go on the 1 and the 4 beat?
The metronome for the playback?
Right.
That's an interesting question. So the metronome in the player is sort of fixed. I mean, this metronome here. Only a second. Let me take it out of. So the metronome here is fixed. That's going on 1 and 4.
Okay.
Now, if you want the backup, to be a little different, so I'll give you, again, this is more of a preview of more, again, we're getting into the weeds here, to be honest, but let me, oh, I deleted my X tag here. Okay, so here I've got My Darling Asleep. And again, as far as I'm concerned, we've sort of completed the workshop. I'm actually going to stop the recording at this point because what we're getting into now is hold on a second. We're going to go ahead and stop recording. All right, but before I do that, I do want to thank everyone for attending today, and we're going to hang around for a little bit and kind of dive into the weeds. But again, I want to thank the San Diego Krugberry-Coogan Cultist branch for sponsoring this event, and I'm hoping that we can pick this up again next Saturday, and we'll go into much more technical detail. But I'm going to hang around here and just kind of give you some more crazy demos.